Hey, everybody. Great to see everybody out there in Leeway land. Hey. Oh, we got a legendary one for you today. And of course, we started out with that amazing track from one of two albums that we'll be talking about today with our guest, Adult Crash by Leeway. Yes. And speaking of our guest, this gentleman has been gracious enough to come on once and now twice. And today we'll be talking about, everything that we didn't get to in our first interview. So we have quite a bit to get to today, so I will not muck this up anymore with any more intro. Let's get the man of the hour on himself. May I introduce to you a man who I believe will go down in history as one of the greatest frontmen ever to grace the rock and roll stage. Everyone, put your hands together for the one, Moet. I think you're going to be one is sitting down for this one. The only.
No, stop everything. I'm too fucked to go on. I'm too fucked.
All that trouble, man. All that trouble that you cause.
Yeah. Apparently, like I said last time, I'm out of my mind.
So how you doing, Eddie? Thanks for.
I'm good. I'm good. How are you tonight, Manny?
I'm doing real well. It's great to see you again. And
hello, everyone. Checking the comments.
Oh, we
checking
got
them twice, making sure you're all not naughty and nice.
We got the stalwarts in the audience today, of course. We got Moet, we got the great Ruby, we got Ray J. The gang is all here today.
And again, thanks for having me. I appreciate this.
Eddie, it's definitely my pleasure and also an honor for me to have you on the show. And so why don't we just get started? We got a lot to get to today. Before we get into talking about the last two albums, I actually kind of want to take it from before the last two albums. I want to take it from Desperate Measure, the end of Desperate Measure's tour, and then we'll take it there. But first, there was an allegation made in our last show, and you and I have had this discussion off the air. I don't want to get in the middle of anything, but at the same time, an allegation was made against you by Mikey that you have the right to address, in my opinion. Sure. Because it was an allegation of a criminal allegation, and so it's only really fair.
Look, I was a criminal. So I'm not going to deny that.
So let's just hear what, just for the audience's sake, so we can hear exactly what was said, and then you can give your side of the story. And
I don't know how we got it so wrong, because Mikey's great with dates and a lot of information.
The guy's like autistic with dates, but let's and I'm saying that as a positive thing. So let's just hear what he had to say. It's just a minute-long excerpt, and that way we actually get it on the record.
I was a safe cracker.
If anything,
I fucking wish.
Hold on one second.
And I'll say it thanks to Eddie. Eddie Sutton. There was something bad happened, and Eddie knows. He knows. I don't have to get into it, but I can. But
it's up to you.
I mean, we were supporting Cro-Mags on the East Coast in December of '88, and we all talk about Eddie had his addiction, he had a bad habit, and we played the Chance one night in Poughkeepsie, New York, and the safe was broken into, and allegedly they blamed it on Eddie. Eddie stole the money to pay the bands and something like that. I don't even know if that's the true story, but that's the gist. And
that's the story that got out.
The right story.
On December 23rd at the Ritz show, the Cro-Mags were headlining the Ritz show. It was the final show. Eddie didn't stick around because Holly was furious at him. Holly said, "If you don't leave now, I'm going to fucking kill you."
Wow.
Drugs are a terrible thing, and it destroyed this band. It destroyed us. I mean, Eddie's on interviews. I mean, one of my friends saw Eddie on the band I formed after Leeway with Ferdinand Canelos. Fed was watching at 3 a.m. He was watching television one night, PBS, and he saw Eddie Sutton on TV, on public broadcasting.
All right, I'm going to fall asleep.
Eddie was like...
All right. So you have the right to address that. It's only fair. But
it wasn't a safe. It wasn't a safe. It was a discrepancy over merch receipts at the end of the night. And this was one of Chris Williamson's flunkies working the table. I was given X amount of money, and it was supposed to be X amount of money. And it turned into this whole ridiculous hullabaloo. And as much as I got confronted by Harley and he smacked me, you know what I mean? Like,
He actually
I took
put
the
his hands
weight
on
for
you?
it, whether it was something I did or didn't. So whatever. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but it's just plain ridiculous at this point. You know, I don't think the Cro-Mags wanted out there that Eddie Leeway ripped them off, because I guess that would make them look weak, wouldn't it?
I have no clue, really.
So whatever happened, happened. You know, this shit happens. I don't deny that I was fucked up back then. Even at that night at the show, heroin was being sold outside the front fucking door.
Jeez.
You know
Maybe
what I mean?
this is definitely a personal question, and please forgive me if it's too much to deal with.
No,
But
because
but
I'm an
but
open book.
but
I put everything out in front,
but
and
this heroin thing, it's been going around ever since the early 90s, even up here in the Bronx. I heard all the rumors.
it's worse today. I'm scared for people out there with fentanyl. This
Oh,
shit could take you out in a goddamn heartbeat.
it'll take you out in a second. But my question is, how did you get involved with that drug in the first place?
Somebody in a band that I looked up to, that I lived with on the Lower East Side, he was very much involved with it. And I'm not going to blow his name up.
Of course not.
know.
No, that's not what this is about. This is about you.
You know, I experimented, and then I moved out because it was just bad, because I was giving money to rent and I was giving money to bills, and none of it was being paid for. And I felt like the band members were blaming me for this guy's problem. So I fucking bounced. And then 2 years later, I'm making a ton of money working at Palladium and Tunnel, and, you know, girls, drugs, and sex got me all caught up. And
Right.
My first arrest and my first felony, and I was arrested with AJ and a couple other people. We spent like 3 days in the fucking tombs. And I felt the coming on of what is an opiate dependency addiction. And I battled it on and off for like several years. And a lot of it was depression. And I learned to medicate that with very low dose antidepressant for like the last 20 years. And I've been able to rise above that. You know, whether people think I'm this difficult and crazy individual, I'm not as bad as half the front men out there who have like, overbloated egos and shit like that.
What
If
year?
you can't handle me, then I guess you're not a man, because I'm not that big of a fucking problem. If I'm that big of a problem to you, then I guess you're not that much of a man.
What Eddie, do me a favor if you can. I think you're kicking something, because it's coming through the audio as a little low thud.
I got my foot on one of the small amps. I'll try not to do that.
Okay, because it's causing like a low thud in the audience's ear. What year around was this? I mean, I don't want to dwell on this, but it does come up, so we might as well.
From like 89 to 95. 95, I got into treatment, and within 6 years, I finally got on to like an antidepressant, paroxetine, a generic form of Paxil, and
Do
for
those
20
do those
years, for
do
over
those
20 years, I've been taking a very low dose,
low dose? Yeah.
and it's helped balance me out. It really has.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't numb me out. You don't get a buzz off it or anything like that. You know what I mean? It's not Xanax.
Does it have
It's
any
not a
like fucked up side effects?
no,
Like
no. It's not a cure-all, but
right.
I'm not looking to go higher on it or anything like that. It just helps me to be a little more level, even keel.
Right, right.
You know.
So let's take it back to the music, which is
All
what
right.
I really want to talk about. And I'm still hearing that thud, by the way. If you, I don't know, maybe it's
Well,
like
you're hearing the dogs upstairs. That I can't
okay,
stop.
that's what it is. All right, I thought it was something
The
that you were doing.
clicketing and the clacketing. Yeah, that we can't stop.
So this is the lineup, of course, that did the Desperate Measures album. Sorry,
And the
and
quickest tour.
and
That's where we are.
and the tour. So you're on the Desperate Measures tour right now, and you're in LA, correct? Venice.
Yeah, it's probably up about 20 minutes before BJ Pappas took this photo. We played Reseda, I think, the night before. The Country Club is the name of the venue. And God, I woke up so dehydrated and everything because here we are, we're on the coast in front of the Pacific Ocean. And the sun's beating down on the Econoline van. and I woke up like I was in Glitter Gulch or some shit, like in the smack dab of the desert. But there we go.
But what I'm seeing here is, I mean, you're the front man, you're the brooding front man, so I don't expect a smile.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing smiles and seemingly positive attitudes and great vibes from all the
Yeah, and there was some drama within a matter of days of this photo. You know what I mean? But what a professional bunch of guys we are, right?
So
we're all having a great time.
So from 5, then it now becomes 4. Because after Desperate Measures comes out, you guys do this tour. I'm not exactly sure of the chronology of it all, but Mikey somehow leaves the band, and it leaves Pokey, AJ, Jimmy, and you as the core members of Leeway. Now,
within 3 years.
Why don't you just
of course, I'm trying to remember whether Desperate Measures was recorded before we did this whole summer run. The Bad Brains did 12 plus weeks in the US. Leeway was on that tour for the majority of it, but there was a 1-week period where we didn't have dates with the band. So the guys went home. But I stayed because the Bad Brains had a bunk for me on their tour bus. So I stayed on the road, and I got to, go through the whole experience in the South with them, which was quite interesting too, because at that time, there were undercurrents of racism, like at road stops and shit like that.
Right. And for those who don't know, the Bad Brains, of course, are for, I guess they're American black African Americans.
Even though like they come from DC, and they came from like almost relative middle class, but they found Rastafarianism and became what they became. I mean, they're the Beatles to American hardcore.
Right.
And hardcore is American. Quick lesson. Punk rock came out of New York. Malcolm McLaren coined it and made it into the phenomenon that it was because he came to America, did a short run with the New York Dolls, and they broke up. It imploded while he was managing them. And then he went back to England and created the Sex Pistols and a scene that became what people know as punk rock today. But punk rock bands like the Ramones and the Heartbreakers and the New York Dolls were in New York creating this phenomena as early as 1973. So that's how you get punk rock. And then after Malcolm McLaren's form of punk, 1979, I forget the band out of the West Coast that started what was known as hardcore, and hardcore is American as well before anywhere else.
Right.
There are other bands from the Midwest. There's another black band that started just before the Bad Brains but never got recognized. There's a couple of bands from South America that were considered punk, but again, didn't get recognized till 40 years later. So you could hem, haw, bitch, or debate what made this and why is this, you know what I mean? Like, there's just been rebellious bands going on for as long as I've been on the planet, and that's 58 years.
Right. Right.
So whoever gets that place or whoever gets the prize, that's open for opinion.
I just want to remind the audience that we have in the description, we have a link to Eddie's GoFundMe to help his battle with cancer, and every now and then Ruby will put it in the chat as well. So actually, there's a couple little odds and ends I want to deal with here. There's a picture here that's kind of confusing to me, and I wanted to speak to somebody in the band about it.
Okay.
And it's this picture right here. Now, there's you, of course, doing your thing as you always did. There's AJ. I have no idea who's playing the drums.
The only guy with his feet in the air.
Right. And I don't know who's playing the drums, but it looks like a black set of tamas. Whoops, hold on. Sorry.
It's Pokey.
That's Pokey. Okay.
Yeah, the first time I saw this photo, it was used on YouTube for one of the covers we did, which was a version of the Smiths song, The Last of the International Playboys. And I'm assuming I'm jumping off the riser to be that high.
Right. But what's confusing me now that I look at this, actually, it looks like might be a sonar kit, and I think Pokey played a set of sonars. But anyway, what's up with Jimmy Xanthos here? He's playing a 6-string guitar, not a bass.
No, it looks like that. I think it's still a 4-string. It just looks that way. I don't remember him being with a 6, and I don't see Mike, so I don't know if he's in it. But this also looks like the stage from a spot in Trenton called City Gardens. I just can't be sure.
Right. It's just, I'm almost positive this is a guitar. This is a 6-string.
Yeah. Mikey's next to Jimmy, but you just don't see him in the shot. It's the 5-man lineup.
Right. I'm just curious why Jimmy seems to be playing a 6-string and not a bass, and I guess this is just a mystery lost to time, and maybe Mikey, if he's watching. James says, look at the tuning machines. It's a bass. Well, I'm counting 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, it looks like 4 to me, but the way the angle of the top of the neck and everything else, it looks like it could be 5 or 6.
Yeah, and also it's just a strange bass that has a pointy neck, but I know
it's an anomaly, just like the Billy Rick and Fleer fuckface photo,
So, all right, so I want to now all right, so Desperate Measures, classic album. Talk a little bit about how 5 became 4, how Mike left the band from your perspective, of course. Hopefully Mike will join us for another episode at some point, and we'll get his story. But from your perspective, how did that come to pass that Mike no longer stayed on the Leeway journey? And then we'll go into the adult crash.
It's hard to say. Of course, Desperate Measures came out. We didn't really get to tour it much, even though we did the video and we were still a full lineup. After we went to Europe, depending on who you ask, the band went into a flux. My leadership of the band fell off because I was dealing with a lot of shit. Plus, I was married. I think I was the only guy in
You were
the
married?
band. Yeah.
That's new. I never knew that.
I was the only guy in the band who was trying to manage this addiction, but also living on my own and trying to come up and hustle and survive and pay rent and do all that shit. Everybody else was still living at home. And, that's why there's these assumptions. By the time we got an offer to do Adult Crash, the band was supposedly broken up. And, if you listen to interviews with other people, apparently there's this mystery vocalist who was hovering in the wings that if I couldn't cut it, they were going to replace me. And I would love to know who the fuck that is, because I'll tell you honestly, I don't have much of an ego, but I don't know anybody in hardcore that can do what I do. So
no, one of the beautiful things is that I'm not objective here. I'm totally subjective. You guys were one of my favorite bands, and you were the person that got me into your band because of your amazing performance that night in '92.
Thank you.
So I have to agree. I mean, replacing you is like Rush trying to replace Neil Peart, or or Zeppelin trying to replace Bonham, or some other iconic member of a band. It would just be totally impossible.
You might as well start over.
Just start over, right? Exactly. So, so then take us then into the genesis and the beginnings of this Adult Crash album that came out in '94. And one of the things that I'd like to address, and I addressed it, and we can probably do this first because I think that this might have some relevance, was the influence, positively or negatively, of grunge. Because after Desperate Measures comes out, all of a sudden America is taken over by the grunge phenomenon, and every heavy metal band, every progressive rock band, every band that existed that was playing, party music, all of a sudden it was like a death sentence because of grunge. How did grunge affect Leeway from your perspective?
All right. Well, like that last tour we did in Europe with Mikey, that's where the photo from Adult Crash comes from. That photo is like the third night on the tour. I was sick as a dog, not only from the weather. We were playing East Germany. There was a foot of snow outside. Plus, I was withdrawing from drugs. And what I decided to do is I had our tour manager, Danny Ilchuk, tape me up in a chair. So when we came on, they literally picked me up and put me in front of the mic stand. And we did the intro to like Rise and Fall. And I did the first song in that chair with the tape on, and then got out of the seat and started going. I was able, despite feeling horrible and probably needing medical attention, I was able to do a decent enough performance that, our sets were rather memorable that night. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But God, what hell it was,
So just real quick, grunge, any effect? Any?
I don't know. I think we were, if you listen from BTE to DM, there was a progression.
Oh,
Granted,
absolutely.
the beginning and last song on the album are 5 to 7 minute opuses. Who could fucking slam dance 5 straight minutes or 7 minutes? You must have to work real hard on your cardio to get in the mix and be able to do all that shit. But we were trying just to be more expansive. And I started to be able to sing better. And this is where I started incorporating what I was known for. And that's multi-layered harmonizing and doing something that nobody in a New York hardcore band was doing on vocals. We had too many guys trying to mix the album, and we weren't as in key, like in tune or together, and you know, concentrated the way we were with the first two records. Not enough rehearsal, not enough time. It's kind of like we were just given the budget and we threw everything at it and just saw what came out. That's why Adult Crash is the weakest of the 4 albums.
You feel it's the weakest.
It's got great moments.
It definitely has great moments. I mean, Simple
but
Life.
It does not have like that beginning to end bang, 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 bang that the first 2 records have, to the evolution of what Open Mouth Kiss was at the same time. You know?
So this is interesting. So Born to Expire, written mainly by you and Eddie. I mean, and you and AJ.
Yeah.
With contributions, of course, by Zowie every now and then.
Yeah, and Mikey wrote his leads. He
wrote his leads, right? But Desperate Measures, I would imagine Mikey took a bigger role in writing, correct?
Yeah.
So that definitely had an effect on the sound. Now all of a sudden, Mikey's no longer with you guys. Did he have any part in writing any of this material, and then you guys just used those songs, or was he not a part of this album at all?
I honestly can't really say, but it is pretty much AJ's riffs, and then given to me to make. We did do a demo at a studio with Noah Evans in the West Beth Studios on the west side in downtown the Village. I think the name of the studio was SD40. We cut about 5 tracks there, and the majority of those tracks wound up on Adult Crash. Maybe 1 or 2 of them, like Hornet's Nest, didn't make it to Adult Crash, but was released on Open Mouth Kiss.
So we have a song called 3 Wishes here, which we can listen to a little bit of. Do you want me to just start it from the beginning, or do you have any particular spot you want me to go to?
No, just let it run. This, of course, was a song we did the video with. I was quite proud of it because this is the genesis of me doing multi-layered harmonies on top of just being the lead vocalist.
All right, so let's take a little bit of a listen. All right.
I guess you could hear.
Oh, absolutely. You can hear the layered vocals. Did they put you through any effects? Because it sounds like there was a low vocal tone there.
No, but I would go in there going, I can't find destiny. Somebody and then a higher one,
Right.
and then a more leveled off version of it.
Right. And
But that chorus, exactly, it was pretty much simplified with my straight direct voice and that low one, and probably layered maybe 3-4 times.
right. I always, and again, it's a perfect example of just the fact that you guys wrote songs with parts, verse intros, verses, choruses, pre-choruses, and all that kind of stuff, solos. I mean, it was something a step above what so many, you know, hardcore bands were doing. And that's why I don't even really, I mean, you guys are a crossover band. You're not even really like a pure hardcore.
Hardcore
And
is passion. You know what I
right,
mean? To
hardcore
me,
passion.
I always said Billie Holiday is hardcore. You know,
I can see
Waylon
that.
Jennings is hardcore. You know what I mean? Like Johnny Cash is hardcore. You know, it doesn't matter like the style
Right.
or region that you come from. You know what I mean? Hank Williams is damn hardcore. Dude died on a New Year's Day from a fucking heroin overdose. You know what I mean? Like the dude was a hard drinking, hard living man.
Right.
But, you know, he wrote twangy Western songs, country and Western songs. He wasn't trying to be Muddy Waters meets Lemmy. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or something
Right.
like that.
Was there any frustration in the band because Mikey wasn't there to provide that second guitar, or did you guys just move on and, you know, just kind of
Me
just
and
move on?
AJ dealt with a lot of changes from the beginning. So we always just adapted and moved forward.
Right.
You know, you could hear a lot of things from Adult Crash that you can say are influenced from the grunge era and,
Right.
and things that were happening. But I don't know if it was intentional. Do you know what I mean? Like I wasn't sitting there on a stool trying to say, okay, we need to compete with this grungy shit and
Right. Right.
get on the bandwagon and write our top 40 hit. So we're
Exactly.
on goddamn K-Rock. You know
The
what I mean?
Well, the music also got a little bit slower, and part of that just could be because, I mean, I'm just saying this. I don't know if it's the truth, but you guys were just getting older. You know, like it's not a matter of not being able to play fast. It's just you matured a little bit musically, and you were able to say things, you know, maybe a little bit slower. But yeah, there's not much speed on this record.
Yeah, I think it's just the pace we went with.
Right.
I guess, you know, like been there and done that.
Right. Right. Exactly.
For it to expire, we proved ourselves that, you know, we could do this. But the challenge isn't just in this. The
Right.
challenge is evolving and expanding. You know what I mean? Like, you know, the Beatles didn't just sit and sing She Loves You and sing This Boy. You know, they went through a rubber soul period.
Right.
And Sergeant Pepper's. And then, you know, because of George Martin, you know, like they had an engineer and producer that was able to be quite expansive, even in its simplicity of like 8-track recording. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Now, one of the people who came into this band, and of course we interviewed the legendary Tony Fontau. It was a wonderful experience. This
Yeah, I
guy
enjoyed watching it.
yeah, I mean, he really is a very pleasant and positive person. I really enjoyed that interview. But he was replaced by this gentleman right here. Now, I only want to get into him a little bit more because, in my opinion, he was absolutely critical to your guys' sound. He was one of these members that, you know, wasn't just a placeholder. He really contributed, and we're talking here about Pokey,
Of course.
the drummer. I want to get on the historical record. How, because I'm not sure that we asked either you this or Mikey this. How did Pokey get into the, like, how did he enter the Leeway realm? Like, what was the deal there? I mean, it's also, he was a Korean dude, which was unusual as well. You never really saw Korean musicians, especially hardcore drummers. It was a very unique look, and I remember just being totally blown away by this guy's sound and style.
Yeah, there's probably only maybe a few Asians up until 1990 from the hardcore scene. Pokey, I met a couple of times at Rich shows, and at the time he was doing a stint with Raging Slab.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, well, they're a band that did some Rock Hotel shows and were part of the downtown rock scene for a while there.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, obviously Tony left, and we were lucky, like we always were, that we found somebody who had the talent to step in and help us pick up where we left off and not have to have the stutter step that we endured. Do you know what I mean?
And Tony's shoes were huge to fill because of his power and precision and speed, and very rare, especially in those years, that drummers played like that. But
Pokey obviously did not have the physique of Tony or his size, but he was capable of doing everything, and also have quickness and fluidity to really be rhythmic, you know. And I would assume that comes from his appreciation of Stuart Copeland, you know, of like,
oh, you could hear that totally in his sound with his snare,
You know?
his high-pitched snare sound, and his intricate hi-hat work. And it's a perfect segue, Eddie, to talk about our next song, which actually kind of highlights the rhythmic talent of Pokey, and he's the one who kind of drives this song, and we're talking about Wuthering Heights. Let's take a listen to a little bit of this. All right. So, I mean, it's all there, man. You got that great rhythm, the great guitar, and of course, seriously multi-layered vocals. So talk a little bit about this one. I remember this one live. It was always like, I really love this song live.
Yeah, and we did it for a while there. It didn't wind up staying in the set over time. But Wuthering Heights is like a knockoff of a classic movie from, you know, the Silver Age, or
right.
The movie was called Wuthering Heights.
And of course, that's a famous song by Kate Bush.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she took it from the classic movie as well. And lyrically, it's just about, you know, a lot of people on the scene who are here today but gone tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, during this transition, I was already going to shows now over a decade. So I was seeing a lot of people that were here at a certain point and then are not there. And a lot of it would be, I think, due to drama and beef,
Mhm.
you know, and once something went down, a lot of people didn't rise through it or get through it,
Right.
and
You
you
know,
know,
it's
just dipped
crazy.
out.
It's crazy how much drama there is amongst musicians. We're like freaking yentas with, I mean, all of us, every one of us is like a drama queen almost. I
Yeah,
mean,
but there's a certain level of immaturity that comes with the art.
right,
Um, you know, look at a lot of guys now that are still at it at middle aged. You know what I mean? Whether they're doing it because this is all they knew and it pays them better than it would if they did something else, or you know, for someone like me, this is the one thing I got right in my life,
hmm,
and I embrace it humbly but completely.
right,
And you know, I have no problem admitting my immaturity to be this Peter Pan type figure who never grew up to be a part of this. Do you know what I
hmm,
mean?
yeah,
So, you know, whether it's, you know, being a kid at heart, or being just immature because you never gave it up and you stayed with it no matter what, you know, it is what it is.
right,
But I guess all of us have a certain level of immaturity. It's just a question of how much it stands out or
right.
how much it completely envelops you.
I mean, you just hear like say like I don't like just take a band like the Cro-Mags, and I don't want to get personal, of course, but God,
Um,
all you read with the Cro-Mags is this person hates that person, and this person stabbed this person, and this person jumped this person, and this person thinks this person has bad breath, and this and that. It's crazy. It's a very big turnoff to me because my attitude is get everybody just get along. I might take the Rodney King attitude, which is like, yo, we're all getting older. None of us are going to be here in 30 years, 40 years. Everyone should just get together and have a good time. But I guess it's just not to be.
yeah, some people can figure it out easier than others, and then some take it to a point where it's ad nauseum,
Right.
and it is a turn off. You know,
So so Adult Crash comes out. How's it received by the fans, and what's the vibe in the band?
honestly, I don't know.
Well, I'll tell you my perspective.
Okay,
As a huge fan, I think that this isn't the first time you've heard this, Eddie, and I hope I'm not speaking out of turn, but I just felt like it didn't have the punch of the first two albums. And I have to say that I think that this is an album that I've had to get older in order to appreciate. At the time, I didn't appreciate it. I wanted the speed, I wanted the hardcore sound, I wanted the thrashy breakdown parts, and I was getting melody, and I was getting, a sound that I wasn't used to. So it didn't it that album didn't hit, as a fan, that album didn't hit me as hard as the first two albums. And so I'm just kind of wondering, like, what was going on in the band.
yeah, that's obvious.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? Like all that is obvious.
Right.
But you know, when we would do shows, even though we weren't really touring much in the States, but we were taking advantage of going overseas.
Hmm.
Like the show itself was still lively and punchy and powerful, but you know, a lot of people didn't get the attempts of us being expansive.
Right, right. Yeah, and
And
I
and
was right there in there.
that's a guarantee, and that's an obvious. That's why this is the weakest out of the 4 albums. You know
Right.
what I mean?
But it's crazy because in preparing for these shows and listening to these albums again, I mean, Born to Expire and Desperate Measures have always been in my rotation. I've never taken them out ever since I first heard them. These last two albums, though, I listened to them basically once or twice back when they first came out, and never listened to them again. But in preparing for these shows, I was listening to them intently. I was trying to figure out what parts to excerpt, and I really started getting more of an appreciation for these last two albums because they were more mature, and there was a little bit more the thought to song, not song structure, but I don't know exactly what I'm trying to say, but the songs just, they gelled for me as an older adult rather than as a 20-year-old, a little more.
Prog rock in you.
It might be.
You know, for me, after playing the first two albums live all these years, you know what I mean? Over 35 plus decades, 35 plus years. You know, I go back to listening to the last two albums because that's where my vocal talent started to really grow and shine. So I don't really need to hear the first two albums as much as I want to hear what I did on the last two, because anything that I'm trying to pursue, write, and record now, whether it's to be a feature on another band song or something I'm working with, you know, I'm listening to what I did on these last two albums to give me a better idea of what my strengths are, what I can do, and where I can go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's funny that you say that because I was listening to Simple Life, which I think is now I'm putting that in one of your in the pantheon of great Leeway songs, and it's very similar in maybe I'm just nuts, but it's very similar to Message to a Man-Child in terms of your vocal delivery and kind of the way you vocalized. So I can see what you're saying here, where your modern style now is more of an outgrowth of the second two albums than the first two.
You're right. You're just nuts.
I must be, man.
No, I see your point. And you know, Message to a Man-Child was written in a matter of minutes because of unfortunate circumstances and things like that. I already discussed it. I don't need to say it again. And it, you know, it was the B-side to that release after me, you know, going alone and using the Leeway NYC brand so people would understand that it was just me. And you know, to make a point, I feel I'm entitled to use the name by myself because I became Eddie Leeway. You know, I'm the face. I'm the one that's become the lifelong spokesperson for this band. So,
I mean, that's just an objective truth. I mean, just as a person who's been watching you guys for the last 30 years, I haven't seen AJ out there. I haven't seen Mikey out there. You know, I haven't seen.
So seeing that Simple Life video was a surprise to me because, you know, from what I understand with AJ, you know, the internet's the devil. You know, so he's not on social media. He's not, you know, talking to individuals and making that time. And you know, me, I'm honored by it. I'm humbled by it. So, you know, I understand the true fact that, you know, without them, we are nothing. It's as simple as that. You know, none of us are Rod Stewart where we could walk around and act as if we don't need you. Get away from me, kid. You're bothering me. No.
Like what he did to you.
It's a beautiful thing to know that there are fans younger than the songs. A lady friend of ours who did merch for the band towards the end, she's got an 11-year-old boy who's learning to sing, learning to play bass and guitar. He goes to every show. He stage dives. He hasn't gotten hurt. And most of the bands like him. But, you know, some people have kind of made their opinion known about how they don't like it. As if he shouldn't be out there and stuff like that. But I feel like, you know, this music phenomena and scene becomes more and more nostalgia if we do not invite and welcome youth.
Exactly.
Granted, he's not a teenager yet. He's not going to shows alone. He's going with his mom. But the fact that he has the passion and the spirit is something that should be encouraged.
Well, on that
note, an ego where he thinks he's special,
right?
Because of it, he just loves the music and he loves being a part of it.
On that note, there's a video. If people Google your name or put in your name into YouTube, there's a great interview that you did with a young kid. He was like 10 years old, 11 years
That's
old.
Exactly what I'm talking about. His name is Gabe.
That's the same kid.
Kids in the Pit, yeah.
Yeah, and it was a great interview. I mean,
all right, he's not in the pit,
right?
But he's up front at shows. People have stage dove and landed on him. You know what I mean? He stage dives, and so he's so small, everybody lets him surf, and he sings along too. He's living the life of Riley. He's living the life.
Right.
He's living the dream. And I want kids to be able to see, that they're welcome to this thing. It's important. It's very important. Yeah, you can get hurt, but I think Gabe is aware of that. From what I understand, and it's like playing matches. Eventually, you're gonna burn.
Man, I never dared to go into a mosh pit at your show. I never was that daring. My ass was in the back taking pictures, mesmerized by the music that was happening on stage. But no, it wasn't my. The mosh pit was never my place.
I broke my ankle. I had a hairline fracture by around 1984.
Jeez.
So I didn't really dance that much in the end. Stage dive is something else because if you know what you're doing, you can land on people.
Right.
I mean, I've hit the floor hard and really bad sometimes, but that's why I picked and chose my moments.
So Adult Crash, you guys tour it. And then I guess you all come back to New York. And then what happens in the band at that point? And then lead us to Open Mouth Kiss.
I guess we weren't really doing much outside of Europe except regional shows, especially in New York, going up to Boston or upstate, a little down south, but really not delving too far out of New York. And then we were still trying to keep it going, and we put the effort in and prepared and gave it one last run with Open Mouth Kiss, and we definitely got things right compared to having all the shortcomings of what Adult Crash was.
So you actually consciously took lessons from the Adult Crash experience and then applied them.
Yeah, without really saying it, but we knew we had to be much more prepared and not half-ass it if we were going to do a fourth album.
Right. And again, the lineup was you, AJ, Pokey, and Jimmy Xanthos.
Yeah.
So real quick, I just want to pull up a track from here. I want to pull up. Let's pull up "Foot the Bill" from Adult Crash. Let's listen to a little bit of this, and then you can comment on it. And just let me know when you want me to kind of stop it. You could just put that in the chat as we've been doing.
Gotcha.
I'll play a
Dude, you know, I'm hearing this for the first time in a while. It's kicking ass. I'm actually loving these songs. I mean, it's crazy how it's growing on me.
Well, you know, I'm just glad I was able to feed off the music and be able to animate it the way I did for this stuff to stand out. Because again, none of this is done because one person did it. It takes a team, it takes a unit, to create and do these things. Like a singer can't arrange and provide vocals to something if he's not being inspired by music.
Right.
And musicians need the introduction of a vocalist to animate the body of work. It's like a Frankenstein.
Right, exactly.
You know what I mean? You're given the body, now I have to animate it.
Now, the question that I have is, it's clear listening to particularly this album, but a little bit of Adult Crash, that the bass is featured more than it was in the first two albums. Now, of course, in the first two in Desperate Measures, you had the Barney Miller bass line. I forget for some reason the name of the song. There's a 2-minute warning.
Yeah.
And in the first album, of course, it started with bass, but it was mixed so low. But was there a conscious effort for like Jimmy Xanthos to take a bigger role on these two albums?
I'm not the one that really could give the answer to that, because once I did my job, I'm partially deaf. I'm lucky that I can create things in a key that don't sound sour and shitty as it is. So
right.
Once I make the animation of the song with my vocals, it's up to somebody else to make the mix. But I think because AJ is not a prolific lead guitar player, that it was important for the bass to have more prominence in these songs.
Right. You can hear that in the guitar. It's more like layered rather than lead work. And the bass almost has to take a more of an active role.
If you want to hear a phenomenal bass player, the guy that worked with me in Truth and Rights, John Doherty, you can find it on YouTube's. You can find it on YouTube. The name of the band was Truth and Rights, and the CD is called Lies and Slights. I'm actually working on a reissue. We'll be announcing that soon.
Cool.
But the CD is a 10-song CD. It's available on YouTube for free. You can listen to it without commercials or any interruptions because it's been on there that long. And if you can listen to what John did on bass on that, man, that is some phenomenal work. And I'm not lagging or slagging Jimmy, but I'm just saying, like, what this guy did was something else.
Right.
This is
so just thought you'd like to see this. Dave Moth, one of my longtime viewers, Leeway are a classic band, been going through their discography after Manny's videos. So you're definitely getting some new fans from our series.
And thank you. That's the whole thing.
We have a great audience. Really have been blessed with having a fantastic audience. So it's becoming more layered. The music is becoming a little bit slower, a little bit more adult, I guess you could say. And we have this last song that you kind of wanted me to play specifically. It's called I Believe. Let's take a listen. To that.
Yeah.
It's not my intention to make this plain. I'm looking through mirrors to cast the reflection into mine. I've got to be sure now. I just got to slow down. I follow too. I can't tell the future and I'm not even certain that there is a path. I believe in the immaculate conception.
That actually sounds like a Beatles influence.
Well, it's a cover. It's from a band called Buzzcocks.
Ah, okay. Because I was
And
gonna say that sounds nothing like like anything else you've ever written.
yeah, and vocally, the Pete Shelley was a bit more of a uh, it's hard to say,
Mm-hmm.
but he wasn't as like strong, masculine the way like I was doing my vocals.
Right.
He was more a little bit of a punchy and I can't say humorous, but it was just a little more uppity boppity, you know, type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we kind of dragged it out a little bit. And my whole thing, like trying to do this song as well as the cover that we did with the Smiths was, trying to do it not just in my own style, but to try to do it with a little more masculinity.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Because, everybody knows Morrissey's relatively asexual.
And we
and
can certainly use more masculinity in the world, that's for sure.
and Pete Shelley wasn't, a ballsy street guy, you know what I mean?
Right.
So, I if I was going to record these songs, I wanted to own it and make
Right.
it mine with my arrangement and my style.
So essentially, I have the same question as I had with Adult Crash. So this album comes out. How is it received by the fans? What's going on in the band? How's the vibe? What's going on in Leeway land?
Again, it took over a decade for this album to finally get its respect. I think because we were always trying to push the envelope and evolve and took the dare to do things a little different each time. The purists of this type of music weren't hip to it.
Right.
And it took them time to really grow up and mature and then revisit the music and listen to it and finally go, okay, yeah, that has my respect.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, I can't get Simple Life out of my head now. It's insane. I'm like waking up at 3 in the morning, freaking singing the freaking song in my head. But but like, what's happening in the band now? Like, what's going on with you guys?
Oh, I remember one more tour in '95 to Europe. And, by this point, I'm still in and out of my battles. It wasn't until after this tour was over that I finally started getting control of my problem, because it would be like 8 months I'd be back on drugs, and then 8 months I wouldn't be using dope. You know what I mean? And it was always like this roller coaster of going back and forth. So, obviously I became like the outcast of the band. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that was fine by me. You know what I mean? Like, if you couldn't hang with me, then don't hang with me. You know what I'm saying? Whether
Right.
I'm doing something ugly or you want to just take this problem that I don't have control over and just hang it over me. You know what I mean? Like, instead of trying to move forward and being encouraging or trying to find positive things, you want to just sit back and constantly poke the bear and blame it and blame it and blame it. Like, you have a blame thrower instead of a flamethrower, you know?
Uh-huh.
So, that's when things really started going in and out. The band had a certain period of time and run around 1999, and we had Eddie Cohen playing bass. Eddie Cohen played with us for a short period in the 80s, but didn't stay with the band.
Mm-hmm.
And what else from there? And then by 2001, we were supposed to do a show in Philly, and there was an accident on the turnpike, and I was living in Pennsylvania at the time, but I took the bus into New York to do the shows with the band.
Mm-hmm.
And, of course, AJ was running business, and it was like, yo, you got to call the promoter, let him know we're going to be late. It's a problem. You know what I mean? There were cell phones. I had a cell phone.
Right.
I think he did, but there was other people in the band that had cell phones. Could have called the promoter. So by the time we got to Philly, the promoter, who was a woman, got very scared because everybody was standing around getting antsy and uptight because we're not there. She took off. And, the show had a curfew because the bar and venue had its late night crowd to play with.
Mm-hmm.
So the show ended up a wash. Ironically, at the time, Gabby, who's been playing with me in the current version of Leeway NYC on lead guitar, was playing bass for us.
Mm-hmm.
And, everybody was just like, whatever, let's go eat, and I'm sitting in there, and it's the same time the Olympic torch is running through the city of Philadelphia en route to the Olympics, which I guess we're in Utah at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I said, fuck this. I'm done. I'm
Right.
out.
Right.
Good night, everybody. And that was that.
And that was that.
And
so wait, so that was 2009?
2001.
2001. Because I always thought that the band basically broke up in 95.
Well, no. And then after 2001, we did one more reunion with Mike.
Right.
And same idiosyncrasies and issues was still permeating in the air. And, I was done again.
Right.
After that.
Right. Well, Eddie, I have to say this has been
it's been a ride. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, it's
been
it's been a very
kind of like David Spade, the steward at the end of the flight. Bye-bye.
Right, exactly. And I have to say it saddens me hearing about the broken and fractured relationships because listen, I don't ever want to get into the middle of anything. I am interested in you guys as musicians, as people. And my experience with AJ, if AJ's watching this, he might remember this happening. My experience, my personal experience with AJ was I sent him a letter, or I sent a letter to the address on the back of Born to Expire. I wrote same story I've always said, how amazing that show was, how it totally changed my life, how you guys were great, blah, blah, blah. And I don't think anything of it. But then about 4 or 5 months later, I get an envelope in the mail, a large envelope. And what is inside but a Desperate Measures poster with a wonderful handwritten note on the back saying, sorry it took me so long to write back to you. It's just not my style to be emotional, so blah, blah, blah. But thank you so much for your letter. And I always felt great about that the fact that this guy took time to write a fan. And so that was my experience. And my hope, Eddie, is seriously that y'all could just get into a room together and hash things out, because as we said on the phone the other day, none of us are getting younger. And at this point, what's the point of animosity? You guys have this amazing legacy, and we're all old men. We should just be getting along at this point.
Yeah, you would think so, right? Well, maybe what you could do this time is you can write AJ a letter again and go, "Dear Mr. AJ, can you chart my horoscope?" Maybe you'll get a reply, and then, maybe we could do that because, we are collectively trying to get the rights back to the first 2 albums.
Right.
I don't know what that's going to do to properly reissue the music and everything else. And I'm not expecting to be on the planet in a fucking decade. So I'm just focusing on the now and moving forward.
Right.
And I'm welcome to do whatever. You know what I mean? For me, I'm doing my thing. So like that's not going to change.
Right,
know?
exactly. I mean, while I would love to facilitate in any way that I could, getting you guys, and even if we all met together, you know, privately on a Zoom call or something, that'd be amazing. But that is actually a good point that you just made. That you never let any of this stop you. You kept on going, and you're going to this
Yeah,
day.
I don't need a horoscope.
Right. And you know, where there's life, there's hope. So Eddie, you and I have plans to do some non-Leeway stuff together. Hopefully that'll come together. We have some plans to do some true crime stuff, which I think would be
Yeah, I'm
amazing for the
excited for
audience.
that too. I
Yeah,
definitely am.
and we definitely have to get together, but hopefully Leewayology is not over.
Well, I'm
Hopefully
working on a couple of capers. If you want to come with me, I'm going to try to crack the safe over at the Boulevard Watch Factory.
I'm there, man. I'm there. I'm with you.
Yeah.
And I'll keep it very silent this time. We won't let it get out.
You better. You don't want me to make you do the Houdini now. Come on.
So, any last words for the audience today?
As always, thank you. You know, from the bottom of my heart.
You're very welcome.
It doesn't get old for me. I appreciate all of you. You can find me online. It's very simple. On Instagram is mainly where I am. You could go Eddie_Leeway_official, or even look for Eddie's BB cards, because, you know, I'm doing my geeky stuff on that page. I'm buying and selling sports memorabilia. I'm even doing a little bit of custom cut art with trading cards and things like that. I have all this time on my hands, so, you know, I'm just trying to find ways to keep myself busy. You know, I have photo prints that I'm offering for sale for a $22 donation, and I could send that to you. You just got to find me on Instagram.
We just put up the link in the post in the chat, and I'll make sure to get it also in the description as well. When the
yeah, not the Leeway merch.
No. Oh, that's not Leeway merch.
Actually, that one, it's better to just get me at Eddie Leeway Official. I can direct you from there, you know, for what's necessary.
Okay.
You know, don't go with anything or anybody that's not connected to me. I keep it very close to my, you know, chest. I don't really expand out there.
Right. So did you happen to get a little example of one of these baseball cards from upstairs?
Oh yeah. All right. Let me show you what I got. Let me see. All right, let's check this one out if you could see it.
Bring it a little closer. So what you do is you take these and you
Pete Alonso, you know, it's his current Topps baseball card, but I cut it and created my own little thing with prism refractors and stuff like that.
Oh, that's cool.
If you're a Yankee fan, there's Aaron Judge. But you can see all of these on my page. And you know, it's not just baseball. It's not just baseball. I also have you know, like these old 1966 Batman cards that I've made shadow boxes out of.
That's cool.
I don't have the Riddler with me right now. But yeah, it's something that I'm having fun with and just doing it. You know, some people chart horoscopes. I cut up trading cards.
I have a feeling this horoscope thing is something that I should find out more about. But but you guys are also playing at Tompkins Square Park, correct?
Tompkins Square Park, May 27th. It's a free show. It's on the Lower East Side. You know, by all means, come out. It's going to be a great thing. It's a bucket list show for me, because where the stage is going to be built, not just 100 feet away, was where I went to some of my very first hardcore shows in 1981, when the Lower East Side was just like, you know, Fort Apache, the Bronx.
Right.
You know,
yeah.
It was really wild down there. And, you know, so for me to get that opportunity before it's all said and done, for me, it's a good thing. It's a nice thing.
That's cool. Well, Eddie, I know that you'll be busy that day, but I'm definitely going to make it down there.
I'll be there. I'm hoping to have somebody taking care of the merch. So, you know, I'll be there. you know, for me, even being by the merch table, it's my way of meeting and greeting everybody that's looking for like a selfie or
Right.
wants to, you know, talk shit or have a laugh. You know, I'm always accessible. You
Cool.
know,
Well,
I'm not this person that, you know, plays like a fullback on the Bears pushing people away. That's just not me.
right. Well, I look forward to it because we'll meet for the first time, and to the extent that we can, we'll talk a little business. But 86 Mets, Eddie, 86 Mets. I'll never forget that. That was huge. The feeling in New York.
73 Mets were a heartbreak for me, but
That was the year I was born, so that's a little
LFGM.
before my time.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Eddie, I want to say thank you so much. This isn't the last time you're going to be gracing our airwaves, so this isn't a final goodbye, but it's definitely a goodbye for today.
Good night.
And
That's
we'll
all it is.
just stick around so I could say goodbye off the air, Eddie. Thank you, man.
Thank you. Take care, everybody. Thanks again for watching.
You got it. Okay, see ya. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining Eddie and I today. This was a fun one. I always love getting the inside story and the true history from the actual people involved. What we did with Son of Sam and True Crime, we're now applying to Leeway, and I couldn't be happier. It's a great time. All I want to say is, of course, that I hope to continue Leewayology. To any members of the band, former, who are watching this now, just let's get in touch. You guys were too great to not have all this history on record, and I think it's very important, and I have nothing but love and respect, and I want to speak to everybody in this band, and everybody that this band touched in some way or another. So on behalf of Eddie, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. We really had a great time, and we will see you on the next episode. All right, guys, take care. Thanks.